Welcome back to the Pet Business Pod. I'm here with Dr. Qureshi, and if you're looking for a reliable source of insight into the pet business industry, or just wanting to become a better pet owner, then you've come to the right place. Today we're diving deep into what pet hospitals do. We'll be covering some juicy topics, uncovering disconnects and bridging gaps. Get ready for an informative and fun episode. Thanks again, Dr. Qureshi, for having us on the podcast.
Thank you.
There's a lot to cover here, and this is fairly general, but let's start with the basic. What does a pet hospital do?
Good question. So pet hospital provide, and when we say pet hospital, my experience is with dogs and cats and some exotic pets. Mm-hmm. And pet hospital not only do preventative care, like parasite control, vaccinations, healthcare, but also we look after sick pets as well. And so, we provide, we diagnose, we examine a pet, we treat, we do surgeries on them. So it's like a full service, unlike the medical profession is so divided into different expertise. But at a pet hospital or a vet clinic, as a veterinarian, we do everything. And a lot of clients or pet owners don't know that because they just come in and sit in the reception area and hand their furry friends to the team member, and then the butterflies go in the stomach and say what's going to happen with my pet, and they're nervous and everything. But I think that's what we do. Mm-hmm. And behind the scene is not only veterinarian does everything. It's a full team of people who work with a vet to make it happen and treat a pet.
Okay, well, like anything else, teamwork makes the dream work. There's a lot of people involved then in a pet hospital, and
correct
for such a full service kind of operation,
right.
It would take a lot of different hands to make it run. So, can you tell me about the different professionals that you might encounter from front desk all the way to behind the scenes?
Right. So we have, of course, a veterinarian, which in Ontario, a licensed veterinarian it can only examine a pet, make a diagnosis, and treat a pet. Mm-hmm. So, but they need other tasks. It's like when you go to a medical hospital or your hospital, doctor examine you and everything, and then you have nurses and other staff to do that. Same thing in our profession. So vet's job is to examine a pet, diagnose, communicate with the pet owner to let them know what's going on with their pet, and also do treatment or do surgeries. And then the second tier, beside the veterinarian, we have veterinary nurses or veterinary technician. We don't call them nurses because the nurses get upset. So we call them veterinary technicians, but they do essentially the job of a nurse. And so they, the education-wise, they have to go to school for 2 or 3 years in a community college. Mm-hmm. And then when they graduate, they start working in a vet. So they do blood collection, they do run the laboratory work, they do the x-rays, they help prepping for surgeries. So they are basically like nurses. They do bandaging, they do suture removal, like many tasks they do side by side beside the veterinarians. And then we have veterinary assistants who take care of the patient care. It's not much of a technical work they do, but they do nursing care. They, the walking the pets. Mm-hmm. They help hold pets, restrain pets, so a veterinarian and veterinary technician can provide that service or care. And then we have our friendly reception staff, and we call it, they are the gateway, the gatekeepers of any practice. They talk to you over the phone. They calm you down or make you more nervous. I don't know.
They keep everything running. We know how it works.
Yeah, and then they are basically, there's more essential. So they are the communicators. They book all the appointments. They communicate back and forth with the pet owners to make you comfortable. So these are the 4 tiers of, plus beside that, there's a whole administration behind the scene who takes care of everything else to run a hospital.
Wow. So all of those roles, and you said the 4 tiers, that makes sense to have everybody dedicated in their role to come together as kind of a well-oiled machine to keep things running and provide
Definitely.
care,
It's
right?
a team effort.
Team
Yeah.
effort. Fantastic. What other professionals might be involved, either within or outside the hospital, that you would rely on? Are there outside experts that have to be brought in sometimes, or labs that you have to work with?
Right. So, as much as veterinarian hospital has everything in them and we consider that we can do everything, we are like a medical hospital too. So we have the things we cannot handle. We have specialists in our field. So we have cardiologists, we have orthopedic surgeons. So they have 3 more years of education beside, just a DVM for a veterinarian. So sometimes we have to do referrals, like in human healthcare, your physicians or your doctor has to refer to you to a specialist. We do the same way. The things we cannot handle internally. And some blood tests we cannot run in-house. We have to send it out to a lab. And so we have affiliation with some labs in Ontario where we send our samples and get the results back there. So yes, outside in a vet clinic or a vet hospital, we also deal with the outside professionals, and they are an integral part of our team as well.
Oh, fantastic. So very much like a hospital that we would experience as a human.
Right.
All of those different team members functioning in a specific role and providing different tasks that culminate in complete care.
Correct.
Fantastic. With that operation in mind, and you see a pet owner come in, where do you see the most disconnects, and why do you think they exist?
Right. So it goes back to, again, I'm giving examples of human healthcare. In Canada or Ontario, our healthcare is free. And we don't realize when we go to a doctor, we have to pay any bills. We just have a OHIP card, we present it to them, and doctor sees us, or we go for lab tests and everything. So I think that's the biggest disconnect, where pet owners don't understand that this is not governmentally funded profession. Is a private business, and every hospital owned by a private owner, and now they're corporate ownership too. About 20-25% of the practices in Ontario is owned by corporate hospitals. They own multiple hospitals there. So it's not only we provide care, but it's also is a business.
Yep.
So any successful business, you have to manage your people, you have to manage your inventory, so there is a lot of cost goes behind it. And unfortunately, each hospital is different, the way they run their hospital. Some are well-managed hospitals. They run like a business. They know what cost for everything is, what the profitability is, and that's the way they set their fees. So it's all over Ontario or all over Canada, every hospital set their own pricing, what they're going to charge to a client for that service, because the way they run their internal affairs or internal business. I think that's the biggest disconnect, where a pet owner comes in, they're worried about their pet, they want to have it treated, they're nervous, but yet there's a cost involved to it. And I think, which a lot of the time they don't understand, that there'll be at the end of the day, you have to pay an invoice like any other business. You go and do that. While in the human healthcare, you don't have to worry about that.
Sure.
So, and that's the biggest disconnect. And I can go over that a little bit more in detail, what entails in that.
Right, and how those costs are built and evaluated.
Right.
Sure, there's a lot that goes into it. And it highlights how lucky we are that we have our own health care covered in the case where for our pets they don't. But I can see that creating quite a disconnect and being a big decision factor for pet owners too, when seeking out the right pet and animal hospital partner to take their furry friend too.
Right.
Okay, what other disconnects do you see? Is there a lack of understanding of those different roles we talked about and who does what, or what do you encounter when you're dealing with the human patient that comes in?
Right. Yeah, so I think it's very important to understand who does what and how. And overall, I can tell you that working this profession for over 30 years, that everybody who works in a pet hospital, they are truly animal lovers. They're very compassionate what they do, and they have all the best interest to take care of that pet. But I think where disconnect happen is that the stresses of dealing with a sick pet, or and so it gets very emotional because the team is also a pet owner, and when they see an animal in distress and all that, they also get upset. And I think the biggest challenge for our profession is we not only have to provide the gold standard or excellent care to a pet and give all the option to a client to treat their pet, but also we have to worry about the cost factor of that. And unfortunately, that's the reality in a vet hospital day-to-day basis. And that's the cause biggest stress for our teams and also for the client to expect. Yes, they want the best care for their pet, but when everything costs money.
Yeah.
And so, and I think that's what the expectations doesn't meet, because they're expecting they want everything. They want to have their pet well and everything, but they don't know where the costs come from and why they charge what we charge. And over the years, was my goal to run our hospital more efficiently and internally and smoothly, so we can keep our cost to the pet owner so they can afford to provide the best care. But it's such a broad subject, and in the future I'll be talking about more in details, where the costs are, what we can do to be efficient, and how we can run our teams, and what clients should be expecting and everything. So, just give you an idea, almost 30% of the cost in a hospital is the inventory, the stuff we buy, which is, the drugs and supplies to take care of the pet internally. 20% is towards the veterinarian cost and everything. Another 20% to the technician cost. And then we have to maintain facility. We have to have the organization running. So by the time you come down to it, the profitability in a vet hospital is not as what people think. When you pay $1,000, it's not going to go all to the veterinarian who is charging you for it. Is go there to provide, to maintain that facility, provide the care, having skilled team members, and which are, educated and all that. And the bottom line profitability is just there. And then the owner of the hospital, when he built that hospital and everything, he probably taken a mortgage, or he has to provide that facility. But in this episode, I don't want to go over the nitty-gritty details on that. But my goal is in the future to highlight what we can do to be more efficient in a vet hospital, to provide that care more efficiently to the pet owner. So they have to understand that it's not only what you pay goes to the veterinarian. They have to run the whole facility.
I think that's good insight too. We talked about costs and we talked about compassion. And if I remove that heartstring element, that it's all about our pets, and you're worried and you're stressed, or you want them to get good care, and we do remind ourselves it is a business, just like any other business, understanding those costs and how they're allocated and what you're getting for that service goes a long way into helping you decide which animal hospital to partner with, what you can expect to get out of that partnership, and the experts that come with it. just like any other business.
Correct.
And it's not that there's no passion or compassion or anything like that. There's plenty of it. Just like I would hope so many professionals are passionate about their work and want to do a good job. But if we stretch ourselves too thin, the business will suffer and you won't be able to service your pets or your clients as well anymore.
Right.
Sure.
And fortunately, we are such a noble profession. And we, like I said earlier, that we not only make a difference in the pets' lives, but also in people's lives, because that's what sometimes they have. So, in their lives. That kind of stress on a team is huge, because they're not only worried about a pet, but also the pet owner to console them and everything. And like I said, they're very compassionate in what they do and everything. But sometimes perception is does not relay that, because in high emotions, high stress situation, sometimes the communication not always go well.
Sure.
So the goal of moving forward with this podcast is to highlight certain areas where what we can do from pet owners' perspective and the veterinarian hospital and the team perspective to kind of bring them together and say we can have understanding of both parties. And I have a lot more experience in this, managing the teams and also communicating with the clients. So I can definitely highlight different areas, how we can work together better moving forward for the future.
Well, that's exciting. I'm excited to dive into some of those conversations about efficient operations and how that actually translates into supporting staff through stressful operations, I guess, and making the business more profitable, we hope, and being able to provide better service. So that's on an upcoming episode, but it'll be really exciting to dive into it. Fantastic. I think that's all we really have for today. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this episode?
No, thank you. And I think that these are all great questions. And I think the goal of this podcast was definitely to present, those where the disconnects are, how briefly a vet practice run behind the scenes. But if there is interest and question from our audience out there that to talk about one particular topic, I'd be happy to make future podcast on that. And this is just a start, and it's very exciting to share all the 30 years of experience with you and touch on different topics which are pet owners want to know, and also for a vet team for to communicate out there to the general public who have furry friends, how we can do better with each other.
Fantastic. We've got lots of ground to cover. So I
Correct.
look forward to many more episodes.
Right.
Well, thank you very, very much for sitting in the booth with us again today. It was wonderful learning about how pet hospitals actually operate and what goes into it, and the fantastic teams that are working hard to provide care.
Thank you.
Once again, thank you everyone for tuning in. That is a wrap for today, pet owners, vet techs, and everyone else who's tuning in. Remember to follow us on social media so that you can stay in the know and all things related to your furry friends. From exclusive content and behind-the-scenes footage to the latest info about what's happening in this ever-changing world and the business of pet care. Until next time, I'm Shaylin Hamilton, and here with Dr. Qureshi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.